You keep trying to fix it. You try to think your way through it. You force the next step, overanalyze the timing, push people to respond faster, push yourself to work harder, move quicker, figure it out already. But all it does is leave you more drained than before. Because here's the thing no one ever tells you. Forcing doesn't speed things up. It slows you down. It clogs your intuition. It tightens your body. It puts you in this constant state of friction with life. As if life is something you have to wrestle to the ground just to feel okay. But life doesn't respond to force. It responds to presence. And most of the things you're chasing right now, they're not even far away. They're just waiting for you to stop gripping so tightly. You think that holding on harder will bring you peace. But peace doesn't live in tension. It lives in the space you create when you finally let go. Let's be real for a second. Some of the worst decisions you've ever made came from a place of panic. You pushed, you forced something to happen. Not because it felt right, but because you were scared of what would happen if you didn't. That's the trap. The belief that control equals safety, that movement equals progress, that doing something is always better than stillness. Just maybe the reason things aren't working isn't because you're not trying hard enough. Maybe it's because you're trying too hard. This is where things begin to shift, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you stop fighting it. Not everything is meant to be solved by effort. Some things require softness, stillness, surrender. That's not weakness. That's where real clarity begins. Sometimes you think you're stuck, but you're not. You're just holding everything so tightly that nothing can move. Think about it. You can't receive when your fists are clenched. You can't feel peace while you're forcing control. And you definitely can't align with the right path when you're busy trying to drag your life in the wrong direction. But you don't realize it at first. Because forcing things gives you the illusion that you're doing something. You're taking action, you're being responsible, you're making it happen. But what you're really doing is exhausting yourself with effort that's disconnected from trust. Because you're scared. You're scared that if you let go, everything will fall apart. That if you stop pushing, you'll lose your chance. That if you stop trying to control the outcome, it'll never work out the way it's supposed to. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if things aren't working because you're trying to force them? Have you ever noticed that the most aligned moments in life, they don't come from stress? They don't come from overthinking. They come when you finally breathe. When you stop micromanaging every moment, when you stop begging the universe to speed things up. That relationship that finally showed up when you stopped chasing love. That idea that came to you after you walked away from the desk. That healing that started when you stopped trying to fix yourself and just allowed yourself to feel. Those aren't coincidences. That's life moving through you. But it only happens when you make room. And you can't make room if you're too busy trying to control every corner of your reality. Let's be honest for a second. The version of you that's forcing everything, it's not really you. It's your fear wearing your face. It's your past trying to shape your future. It's your mind in survival mode, not your soul in truth. Because your soul doesn't strain. It doesn't beg. It doesn't panic. It knows. It knows when to act. It knows when to wait. And most importantly, it knows that what's meant for you can't be rushed and can't be missed. So take a breath, step back, and instead of asking, what more can I do? Ask, what would happen if I just allowed it to unfold? Because sometimes the next chapter of your life isn't written by effort, but by ease. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The part of you that always needs to control everything. It's not trying to be powerful. Because for a long time, control was the only way you knew how to survive. Maybe you grew up in a home where peace was unpredictable. So you learned to micromanage your behavior just to avoid chaos. Maybe you've been betrayed or abandoned. So you cling tightly to people, timelines, or plans, just so you don't get blindsided again. Maybe you've failed before. So now everything has to be perfect, or else it doesn't feel safe. See, control isn't the root. Fear is. Fear of loss, fear of uncertainty, fear of pain repeating itself. And when that fear goes unexamined, it turns into forcing. You force yourself to get over things faster than you should. You force yourself to stay in things longer than you should. You force timelines, force conversations, force energy that's no longer flowing, just to avoid the silence of surrender. Because silence feels like danger when all you've ever known is noise. But here's what you have to understand. You're not that person anymore. You're not living in the chaos you survived. You're not stuck in the patterns you learned when you had no other choice. You're not a child anymore trying to earn stability. You're not a past version of yourself who had to constantly look over their shoulder just to feel okay. The control you're using now, it's an outdated coping mechanism. And it's costing you your peace. You don't need to manage the universe to feel safe. You don't need to predict every outcome before you can rest. You don't need to explain or justify the pause you're being called to take. Because the truth is, the moment you stop forcing is the moment life can finally respond. It's like trying to hear music while shouting over the speakers. The more you try to control, the less you can actually receive. The more you overthink, the less you trust your intuition. The more you chase, the more what you want runs. But when you soften, when you breathe, when you lean into uncertainty and say, I don't know how this plays out, but I trust that I'll be okay anyway. That's when you finally become available to everything you've been trying to force. Because what's meant for you won't come through pressure, it'll come through alignment. And you don't get aligned by force. You get aligned by letting go of everything that wasn't truly yours to carry in the first place. If you've made it this far, it means part of you is ready. Ready to let go of the tension. Ready to stop carrying what was never yours. Ready to trust life again, even if just for a moment. So here's what I want you to do. For the next 72 hours, stop forcing anything. That's the challenge. Not forever, just 3 days. It doesn't mean you stop showing up. It means you stop gripping so tightly. If something isn't flowing, don't fight it. If a conversation doesn't feel right, pause. If you're exhausted but feel like you should keep going, rest anyway. And most importantly, if you feel that urge to control something or someone, slow down, breathe. Ask yourself, what would happen if I allowed this to unfold instead of trying to shape it? Because maybe that discomfort you're feeling isn't a sign to do more. Maybe it's a sign to finally trust more. If you're in, drop this in the comments. I'm letting go of the grip. Not just talking about healing, actually living it. And if this hits something in you, if it felt like truth you've been waiting to hear, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let someone else breathe too. We're building a space here.